If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of 3. Join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth and postnatal recovery, helping you have a wonderful pregnancy and afterbirth experience. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Welcome to 47 of the Fitness Mama podcast. I'm your host, Kath Bequee. I'm a mum of 3 young girls, a physio for women, and I have an online community, Fitness Mama, which helps to provide pregnant and new mothers with the exercises, support and resources they need to feel good from the inside out as they prepare for and recover from childbirth. Fitness Mama has workouts that are tired mum friendly, achy mum friendly and toddler friendly that you can do in the convenience of your home at the end of a long day whilst your bubba sleeps or whilst your toddler is running around causing havoc. I have the pleasure of chatting with Aoife Kenny as a guest in this episode, and Aoife is an Irish registered midwife working and based here in Melbourne, Australia, in Fitzroy. So Aoife is a founder of Back to Birth, which is a rapidly growing educational platform purposefully designed to prepare and support expecting parents based anywhere in the world through pregnancy, labour and parenthood. So this episode is sponsored by the Fitness Mama 7-day free trial, where you can get access to exercises and stretches to help with your baby's optimal positioning, which you'll hear about in this podcast episode. You also get access to live classes and a huge library of on-demand videos. Fitness Mama will help to improve your motivation and confidence to exercise during pregnancy and beyond. Simply head to fitnessmama.com/free for your free 7-day trial. All right, let's get into this episode with Aoife. Hello, Aoife. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Kat. Thank you so much for having me.
We've been chatting for so long on Instagram, and it's nice to finally get to meet via Zoom.
Yeah, we've been chatting since, I guess, day one, since I started Back to Birth. So say nice to put a face to the name. And thank you for inviting me on your podcast. This is my first one, so I'm delighted to share this milestone with you.
Exciting. So for those who don't know you, could you please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you?
Of course. So my name is Aoife, for anyone wondering how to pronounce my name. As I'm sure it's quite obvious, I am Irish. I am originally from Dublin, Ireland, and I have been based in Melbourne for 4 years in Fitzroy. So Fitzroy, it's become a second home for me. I love the place. So yeah, it's truly captured my heart. I am a registered midwife in Ireland and in Australia. I am a clinical midwife specialist in a really busy tertiary hospital in Melbourne, and I'm also a certified childbirth educator. And actually also, last one, I'm the founder of Back to Birth, my own little baby that I started this time last year.
Great. I'll ask you all about Back to Birth at the end and would love to hear more about it. But super excited today to chat about optimal baby positioning during pregnancy and, more importantly, for birth. So why do you love talking about this?
I know. Well, listen, I'm quite passionate about women and education, pregnancy, birth, but I've always had quite an interest and passion in optimal fetal positioning and maternal positioning. I'm really aware when it comes to pregnancy, it has its own language, and I guess it can be a bit of a buzzword. And I'm sure to whoever's listening, I'm sure many have heard the word anterior and posterior and might have felt a bit confused by these terms. So I really do want to protect and empower and support women to really to understand the really important concepts to have a normal birth. So yeah, I put myself in women's shoes, and I can only imagine this term and this sort of topic can be a bit confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. And why is positioning of the baby so important, do you think, for birth?
It's really, really important. How we sit, how we move, how we use our bodies, especially in the third trimester of pregnancy, can affect the position of the womb, which can affect babies' position in the womb. And baby's position, as I said, is really important for a normal physiological birth. How your baby passes through your pelvis is going to have an important impact on how you're going to give birth. So baby's journey through the pelvis is quite a complex one that is impacted by a multitude of factors, maternal and fetal. The optimal position for your baby, to whoever is listening, I really do believe is whichever position most easily fits with your pelvis. So there is an ideal optimal position, but I really do believe, every baby is different, every pelvis is different. So it's important to grasp the importance of movement for optimal positioning. But yeah, I guess we should probably talk about these magical positions that hopefully can support a normal birth.
Yeah, I would love to talk about the positions to help support birth, but just taking a step back, you touched on them and I just want to dive into them a little bit more, like the maternal and fetal different characteristics that might change with the way the baby is positioned. So what are some characteristics of the mum that might make her baby be in a different position?
Sure. It's down to a multitude of factors, but one in particular is probably down to the shape of the mum's pelvis. And there are certain shapes of the pelvis that vary obviously between each woman. One in particular, the gynovoid, which is sort of a round, shallow, open pelvis shape, which I'm sure you'd know a lot about, is quite common and it's more likely to support a normal birth opposed to a narrower shaped pelvis that potentially can put some women at risk of an intervention or a slower, more prolonged labour or cesarean.
Is there a way of telling, like I can imagine with x-rays you'd be able to tell the shape of a pelvis, but it's not something I've actually paid attention to, the shape. Can you actually tell by looking at a woman's pelvis during pregnancy what the shape is like and if it's an optimal shape?
Oh, I'm good, Kath, but I'm not that good.
Yeah, because there'd be a lot of muscle bulk. Like there's so many different factors. So that's one of those things that's probably interesting to know about, but it's like knowing that genetics can hold a factor. It doesn't really help you.
Exactly.
You can't do anything to change the fact.
Yeah. I always do encourage lovely mums to link in with a women's health physio during pregnancy for support and advice and education. So I think just seeing a number of healthcare professionals that have an idea and understanding of the importance of these sort of concepts will help. But necessarily when a woman walks into an antenatal room with me, it isn't something I'm able to pick up on. Through abdominal palpation, of course, using our hands, we're able to determine the position of lovely babies and where the head is. And I guess if the muscles are tight, but not necessarily the pelvis.
Yeah. And I think it's probably really commonly, and I remember talking about it, really common point of discussion when you're pregnant saying, oh, where's my baby's head today? And I remember mine at some point, I swear it was just doing somersaults for a few weeks. Is there any correlation between a baby that moves and changes positions the whole time? Yeah, what does that mean?
This episode is brought to you by Baby Bee, Australian-owned and designed prams combining quality, safety and style. Not only does Baby Bee let you try their prams at home with free returns for 9 months, yes, that's 9 months, they also offer an industry-leading 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. With thousands of 5-star reviews, around-the-clock customer care, and up to $300 of free accessories with every pram, what are you waiting for? Go visit www.babybeeonline.com and check them out for yourself. And yes, for listeners of the podcast, there is a 20% discount code. Enter FITBEE, FITBEE 20 at checkout, and T's and C's apply.
Well, in early pregnancy, in the first and second trimester, the position of your baby isn't as important as it is in the third trimester. So I really don't want mums really getting too concerned or anxious or stressed about where their baby is in the third trimester. This is when it becomes important. And of course, we really hope and expect baby to be doing lovely movements, in a way, somersaults, little karate kicks, I'm sure. But I guess after a certain stage in the last few weeks of pregnancy, we hope that baby's encouraging to find their way into the pelvis in an optimal position in order to be delivered. And just because you have an active baby or a baby that moves a lot, it doesn't mean baby's in the wrong or right position. But in the last few weeks, that's when it's really encouraged for women to really start honing in on certain positions that can hopefully support baby to, to fall into our position. And I guess this position that I'm sort of referring to is the position where baby's head is down, which is a cephalic position. And also we expect baby's back to, be facing mum's tummy, the chin tucked in. And ideally this is an anterior position. And this is the ideal position for lovely babies to be in. Not all babies are in this position, and that's okay. Some babies actually need to be in other positions to be born. Position, however, if anyone is listening, that I'm referring to is posterior position. And I guess, Kath, would you come in contact with women who are concerned also about this certain position, the posterior position?
Yeah, I think it is a common concern for women that they've been told they've got a posterior baby and they're concerned they're going to have to give birth in that position, because you do hear lots of stories about it, being more painful and all the rest. So I guess a question for that, at what stage of the birth process does the baby can keep changing position to? So if a woman does it, say she's 39 weeks pregnant and she's been told she's had a baby that's sitting in a posterior position, what does that mean for her?
Sure. It isn't something to be overly concerned about. 72 to 90% of posterior babies will rotate to an anterior position at some stage in labour. And that's due to, the power of having regular contractions. And of course, some babies don't turn and some babies are born in a posterior position, and that's incredible. And I've seen that countless times. But I guess when a baby is posterior, which means baby is back to back and baby's facing your tummy, so we call them stargazers, it just means that due to the surface area and the circumference of the head, it can be a slower, more painful, difficult back labour.
So I think this is the question on every woman's mind, and we did put this out as an Instagram story before today. How can I help to get my baby into position for birth?
Yeah.
The number one question.
Well, it's a brilliant question. And the good news is there are a number of movements and exercises to promote baby to hopefully fall into the optimal position. So I guess forward leaning positions can really support baby. And why they can support baby is because gravity will be on your side. So forward leaning positions would be when, let's say, some women are standing upright and just sort of leaning forward, maybe let's say against the kitchen table, against a chair, against their desk and work, sitting on a birthing ball and leaning forward. And this also will support baby to hopefully baby's largest part or heaviest part of their back to hold to the abdomen. That can also support. So I'm a huge fan of birthing balls. Anyone who's done my classes or meets me in the labour ward, I am first to get the ball and have it plonked at the bed, put the bed to the side and get the ball in the room. birthing ball is an amazing resource. And I really think if there's anything to invest in the last weeks of pregnancy, is a birthing ball. It's gorgeous. It can support, a baby's position, but it stretches muscles. It helps with aches and pains and discomforts. Spinning babies, which I'm surprised we haven't talked about yet, but it's going to be thrown in numerous times. Spinning babies really supports and believes in women protecting the balance in their body, which means ensuring that muscles aren't too tight or too loose or twisted. And the birthing ball can support women to, stretch out muscles and protect that balance. So I'm all about the ball.
100%. And inside Fitness Mama, we've got a range of workouts that don't include the ball, but then also do include the ball. And I'm sure we'll dive more into some postures and positions, but I know my mums, as soon as they reach that 35, 36-week mark, they're all asking for those sorts of workouts, which will help with the baby positioning. So we've got some beautiful, for those that are listening, if you want some beautiful exercises and stretches to help with the baby positioning, that's exactly what's inside Fitness Mama. Okay, so we've talked about standing and kneeling over a bench. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're aiming for those that are listening is to get the upper body below the hips.
This is it. And also it's really important that the knees are below the hips as well. It will really support baby to be in the right position.
How could the knees, I'm just trying to visualize this.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sitting down. I'm thinking of the ball. As I said, I'm obsessed with that ball.
Yeah, that's all right. And so we could be sitting on a ball, leaning over something, and then also what sort of kneeling postures do you like?
Sure. Kneeling is an amazing active birth position, and it's a great position to do in pregnancy as well. Kneeling, hands all fours, so that kind of position's lovely. Upright kneeling is also really helpful. Leaning over the birthing ball on your knees and just sort of giving the ball a nice little hug as well can be really supportive.
Yeah. So we're sort of talking about two different things here, aren't we? We're talking about when you're pregnant, some positions and postures to get into. How many times a day, or what sort of prescription do you recommend then for if you're pregnant?
Exactly. I guess that really varies on a woman's fitness regime or how active she was before pregnancy. If someone was quite active and would have sort of joined a gym or would have done a lot of movement before pregnancy, then I guess I'd recommend women to sort of do as much as physically they can. They know their limits more than me. Once a day, if possible. I really don't want you overdoing it. If it feels you have the energy to do it twice a day, amazing. But go at your own pace. And it's all about just sort of continuous movements each day opposed to once a week. Not much is going to happen,
Yeah. And I think it's also great to realize we can even break that down further. So we could say, okay, once a day, I'm just going to do some nice postures and positionings and stretches and get into some of those lovely positions. And then maybe once a week, you could do a bit of a workout. So that's when you need a bit more strength. Did I say once a week, once a day, or whatever it is that you choose based on, as you said, your fitness. So just because we're doing these positions, they don't all require energy and a lot of effort, I guess. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, forward-leaning positions, they help guide baby away from your sacrum and into a position that you both have more space, allows more space in your pelvis. There are some specific things that you can do, like we said, that can just, help baby's position. Another one that we haven't talked about is turning the chair around, let's say in the kitchen, and straddling the chair in a way. Great position. It can relax the muscles, but also I think it can be helpful to do a different movement each day, keep us distracted, keep us engaged, keep us busy.
And I love that straddling of the chair suggestion. I recommend to my mums who've got some low back pain, because I find when we sit upright in a chair, our back muscles are quite active, whereas being able to slouch a little bit more and rest our upper body on the backrest of a chair, it allows some lengthening through those back muscles. And I think having that upper body support, we really need to demonstrate this, don't we? Here we are on a podcast. Might have to do an Insta Live after this. By leaning on the backrest of a chair, it allows us to deload our body, which means I do believe it allows that lengthening of the back muscles, but also the relaxation of the back muscles. So yeah, I think that's a great one. It's great for helping to open up the hips, as you said. I love that leaning over the back of a chair.
And I think we all have a chair, hopefully in the house. So it's something that's easily accessible and something that, maybe your partner can get involved in, or your toddler or your 4-year-old or your teenager, who knows,
Yeah, and if you're working, it's an easy adaptation to just sitting at a normal desk chair.
Exactly. I had a busy day yesterday with classes, and I was doing a Q&A, and then I just felt my back was starting to become, just a bit inflamed or sore. As a midwife, I'm not used to sedentary positions. I'm used to running around the ward. And yeah, I did that position and I really did find it was helpful. And then I sort of incorporated a bit of kneeling when I was watching TV. So thankfully, some of these positions can have a really immediate effect and a soothing effect as well, which is so important. It's all about, ensuring women are as comfortable as possible during these stages, because I don't think comfortable is a word many mums say in the last few weeks.
Absolutely. So are there any other positions or postures that you like for helping with that baby positioning?
I think forward lunging is also a really helpful position to support baby to rotate. Gravity, once again, is on your side. You're opening, your pelvis. And I guess to do your very first lunge in labour is probably not ideal because we may be all on the floor. It's about practicing now to build up that stamina in your legs. But I really do find forward lunging and squatting are two really helpful positions to support optimal positioning and also to have an active birth, if that's something that you wish for.
Yeah, that's a great one. I do love a good squat. To be honest, lunges I find they're fantastic, but if women have been getting pelvic girdle pain, lunges can sometimes flare up that pelvic girdle pain. So if you're listening, that's just something to be aware of if you're wanting to try out some lunges. If you are a bit achy, just start off really slow, small amounts, and just monitor your pain.
This is it. All these positions, are recommended if you feel comfortable to do so. Even though the recommendations, I don't want you to do something that doesn't feel right. So it's just all about being in tune with yourself and connecting with your body and knowing your limits. And yeah, Kath, I guess for a woman who has pelvic girdle pain, what position would you maybe recommend for a mom who has optimal positioning on the mind?
You've just thrown it right back at me.
Oh, sorry.
This is supposed to be questions all about you, Aoife.
I should have texted you.
I'm only joking. So generally with pelvic girdle pain, again, this isn't the blanket rule. This is why I like to see women sooner rather than later, because if we can nip things in the bud and just adapt and modify their program, it can really help to settle their pain down sooner. And that means by the time they get to this, the last 4 weeks of pregnancy, hopefully their pain isn't as much of an issue. So then they can go into these movements with no worries. So for those listening, if you have got pelvic girdle pain, don't persevere with pain. I always say that to every woman. If you're in discomfort, go and get it seen to and try to get onto it sooner rather than later, because I highly do think that the sooner we can nip it in the bud, or at least start some management strategies, it might not help to relieve the pain 100%, but it might help to reduce the pain. Because if you're really inflamed around that pelvis, any of those more single leg activities can sometimes be a bit uncomfortable, so such as lunges. So that's when I would love to incorporate more kneeling positions, and I love pelvic tilts, because pelvic tilts I think are really lovely, opening up that pelvis and providing, so you can do pelvic tilts and sitting on a football, 4-point kneeling. Yeah, I think the pelvic tilts is really lovely for those with pelvic girdle pain.
A great one. That's a brilliant one. Yeah. Perfect. I guess all those kind of positions, when comfortable, will allow gravity to work with your body, and it just provides space for the sacrum to move and open. I guess that's the whole thing. We're just trying to make space for baby, but we don't want you hurting yourself.
That's right. And in our modern day society, we are probably doing a lot less than we did 50 years ago, 100 years ago. You know, we had to do everything around the house then. We had to wash clothes by hand and make fireplaces, and we were just always moving our body, whereas these days our lives are much more sedentary. So as you say, our pelvis perhaps doesn't have as many opportunities to open and get into those really nice positions. So
exactly. Yeah. Our daily unconscious habits, like hours sitting at the desk, driving for long distances, or, especially in a lockdown, isolated life that we're all in at the moment, we don't have as much freedom to move. So it definitely is something we need to keep in mind for sure. And I guess that's why we're doing this lovely podcast. We're going to give a few tips, I guess, on what we can do at home in the house. We've said a few, but also it's great to have a little plan in your mind of what you can do in the room, because freedom of movement in the birthing room isn't restricted if that is something that you hope for. Of course, if you are hoping and your plan is to have an epidural, that is amazing. That's your informed decision. But I guess for mums who have a plan to hopefully keep active, then I guess, it's something that we'll touch on now and prepare for, because it's really important. So, Kat, I got a few questions this morning. I'm sure you did as well. Just how to work with a posterior baby in labour, because this is something that, we should prepare for. We should prepare for everything. So as we were saying, a posterior baby generally is back to back. So that will result in a mum feeling a lot of pressure and potential pain and discomfort in her back. So we don't necessarily have to jump straight to the really hardcore medications. It can be helpful to know that heat packs can be really helpful and can support discomfort as well. The water, shower, the bath as well can be gorgeous to, reduce discomfort and support the posterior position. And, the buoyancy can also be a big tip. Birthing ball, sure, we talked about that lots, but it makes sense, there's no slouching on a birthing ball because they'll all be on the floor. So a ball can support a mum to be in an optimal position, which hopefully could turn baby, would be an amazing outcome. And sterile water injections as well is definitely an option that we haven't talked about for a mum who has a posterior baby, and what they are, because they were new to me, would you believe? We don't have these in Ireland. And I remember I was in the birth centre when I first arrived, and a mum was asking me for these, and I was like, the what? So whenever I go home, if it ever happens, I'm bringing them with me. But the sterile water injections, a midwife will inject a tiny amount, 0.1 to 0.2 mils of sterile water into certain areas in a mum's back, which will temporarily numb a woman's back, and it would sort of disrupt the pain receptor. So it just sort of will relieve the pain in your back. So 85% of women report this is great. So for sure, this is a great tool to keep in the toolbox for a mom who has a posterior position baby.
So can I just clarify, was that a study that showed 85% of women benefited from the water injection? Oh, right. Okay. I've only heard a couple of women tell me their experiences, and they all said, it was all not so positive.
Oh, interesting. I guess, it's all different and it all varies. And I've seen it work very effectively. I guess potentially the discomfort from the injection is the injection itself. We tend to give the injection when a mum is having a contraction. We're very considerate in that regard. But, generally mums are very conscious of the contraction, that maybe they're not so focused on what we're doing. But, everyone's pain perception is different and everyone does feel certain things. So, I guess that discomfort can be a bit uncomfortable, but it only lasts a few seconds and it does ease off. And generally, it's supposed to be effective, but, everyone's different.
Well, it's great that there's been some research showing 85%. Yeah. That's encouraging. That's brilliant. And there was a question that came through, if I have an epidural, what's the sort of best position that I can give birth in? So, I thought that would be a nice thing to discuss.
It would be. With an epidural, I guess it's important that we all understand that unfortunately, we are restricted to the bed. Our legs aren't ours for the period of labour when you have an effective working epidural. So it's not safe to do the certain positions and movements that we've just been talking about, the lunges, the squats, the walking. So I guess anyone who's done my classes, the Time to Shine class, we really do focus on what can we do then at all areas of birth, especially with an epidural. I'm really passionate about encouraging women to move as best they can if it's comfortable to do so. And I really encourage the partners to take on that role, to remind mums to move side to side. I know it's not our lovely forward leaning positions that we've been talking about, but any movement other than lying on your back will enlist gravity to be on your side to help your lovely baby move down. So side to side positions would definitely be one tip. And also a peanut ball. So to whoever is listening who's like, what? A peanut ball is a mini birthing ball, you could say. It's almost like a peanut-like shaped pillow. That's what it is. And it is placed in between your legs, let's say when you're lying on your side. This will allow your pelvic outlet to remain open, even though you're not moving or walking around. A squat, in the kneeling position, those kind of positions open your pelvic outlet by 20%. So even though I guess it's not as wide as a squat, it's something. So for sure, I'd really recommend any mom who is hoping to have an epidural to request, I would love a peanut ball, please, and thank you, so that the midwives can go and get a peanut ball for a mom.
Oh, that's a brilliant tip. And birthing and side lying is also great for the perineum. So there's research to suggest that 4-point kneeling or side lying can help to reduce your chance of a significant perineal tear. But obviously you can't do 4-point kneeling if you've got an epidural. So side lying is the next best option if you can.
Exactly. And I guess, in the movies we watch and all the shows we grow up seeing, we generally don't see women on their side. We see women lying flat on their back in lithotomy or supine or semi-recumbent. So this is sort of what we picture when we think of women in labour. But it's really important to know that there's many other optimal positions that mums can adapt that will support a normal labour. So ideally, any other position than lying on your back can support you and your baby's position in birth.
Do you think that that's something that women need to verbalise? Like, do you think, I know every doctor is different, but do you think the go-to is still just to birth on the back and we actually need to be verbal and vocal if we don't want to birth on the back? Or are those options being given to women more and more so?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kath. I guess it depends on the environment and maybe the circumstance at the time. Freedom of movement is every single woman's right and their choice. Some women maybe they don't want to be up and active and moving. They just want to lie on their side. They're exhausted. However, 83% of women are giving birth in semi-recumbent or supine in the bed, and 24% are giving birth in lithotomy, which is lying on your back with your legs up. So I think it is a really helpful request to ensure that your care provider and people in the room are aware that you are hoping for an active birth with alternative positions. So definitely, I think it wouldn't harm to say your preferences. And that's why having a birth plan can be helpful too, to suggest I'm really keen and open to trying alternative positions, maybe list them. And then it's a great opportunity then to talk with your midwife about all the options that you have at the time. And also preparing your partner, as well. Like it doesn't just fall on your midwife and you, like your birth partner, the partner you choose in the room is part of the team, and it's their responsibility as well to be your advocate and to support you. And sure, they have a huge job. I am all about the birth partners being part of the team. I really want to ensure in my classes that the partner feels safe and aware of all the amazing things that they can do. So yeah, it's a team effort. So yeah, let's inform everyone in the room what your preferences are. So yeah, long story short, let us know that you don't want to be on your back.
Yeah, brilliant. And that is, I think, really important. Like what you just said then about partners being empowered for what they want to do. I think that's great. You cover it in your classes. And for those that want to hear more as well, we do have a podcast episode. I'll have to link it in the show notes earlier on, I think in the first 10, about how to, can't even remember what it's called. How bad's that? It's all.
I probably listened to it. Yeah.
So I'll link it in the show notes. But Aoife, your classes sound amazing. Can you please tell us a little bit more about them and how to find you as Like if people want to find you, how do they find you?
Yeah, sure. I guess Back to Birth, it's an educational platform online, and you'll find me on Instagram, mainly Back to Birth. And I also have a website, Back to Birth Education as well. On Instagram, in the highlight column, if you just click Back to Birth bundles, that's where you'll be able to find a lot more about what bundles and classes I offer. I offer a pregnancy, labour and birth bundle called Time to Shine. And this is a 2-part bundle. It's 2 parts because it's just a huge area to cover. And I guess it's exciting that we have 2 chances and opportunities to get all the questions in. Another bundle I offer is Baby Love. And this is a newborn bundle, but also a postpartum bundle. I really believe, of course, it's important to prepare for labour and birth, but, we really need to start preparing for the 4th trimester, even though, your baby won't be here for a few weeks. So I really do believe that's very important. And then the golden hour is Back to Birth's breastfeeding bundle, and that's a gorgeous hour where we discuss the importance of breastfeeding, the challenges that may arise, and I guess the premise of supply and demand and correct positions. It's a big class. We go through antenatal expressing too. They're quite engaging, they're jam-packed. We generally always go over because I'm forever chatting. And to be honest, I'm very, very grateful and lucky that the clients that link with me, sure, they become friends. We really do create lovely relationships. And due to the power of the internet, generally I have many a mum in Ireland, in Dublin, which is quite important to me because, as we know, I'm from Ireland and half my heart's there. So I really try to do a handful of Irish mums every month as well as Australian, so that I have the best of both worlds.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, thank you, Aoife, for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. It was lovely to chat all about optimal baby positioning.
Thank you, Kath. Gosh, it was amazing. Thank you.
We'll see you soon. And before I sign off, remember, my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including how to connect with Aoife at fitnessmama.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you would like to trial some optimal baby positioning exercises and stretches, come and trial Fitness Mama for free for 7 days at fitnessmama.com/free. Have a fabulous day, everyone, and I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast.